Marry my mama, mister. The cowboy blinked. He hadn't expected that from the small boy standing in front of him with dust-covered shoes, a bruise on his cheek, and eyes too old for his years. But what the boy said next, it changed everything. He had come to town just to trade horses. Colt Harrison was the kind of man who preferred silence, open land, and the company of animals to people. He rode alone, lived alone, and most folks figured he liked it that way. But when the engine of his truck broke down near Maple Creek, a small forgotten town tucked behind a dying cornfield and a rusted railroad, he didn't expect to stay longer than a day. He found himself outside the little auto shop, cursing the bent axle, when a voice from behind startled him. "You fixin' to leave again, mister?" the boy asked. Colt turned. The boy couldn't have been more than 8, skinny as a fence post, gripping a beat-up lunchbox with both hands. His clothes were worn but clean, and his chin was up like he had something real important to say. "Not sure yet," Colt muttered. "That depends on your mechanic." The boy nodded like he understood things beyond his age. "If you don't leave today, maybe you could marry my mama." Colt squinted at him, thinking it was some kind of joke. But the boy's eyes didn't waver. His tone didn't falter. "My name's Jamie," the boy added. "And my mama's name is Miss Lila. She's real pretty. She sings in the church when they let her, and she makes biscuits better than anybody. She's got no ring and no husband. But she's got me. And I reckon that oughta be enough." Colt swallowed the lump rising in his throat. "Why'd you skin me something like that?" Jamie looked down. His voice was softer now. "Because she cries when she thinks I'm sleepin'. She works 3 jobs. And every time she sees a man walk out the diner door, she looks like she's hoping he'll turn around." The cowboy didn't know what to say. What could he say? He tried to brush it off, tell himself it was just a kid saying something silly, maybe even desperate. But the next morning, he found himself walking past the Maple Creek Diner. She was there. Miss Lila. Dark auburn hair tied back in a ribbon, flower on her apron, moving table to table with a tired smile. And when she glanced out the window and saw Jamie playing by the fence, that tired smile turned soft, gentle, warm, and full of something Colt hadn't seen in a long time. He found himself sitting in a booth. And before he could order, she poured him a coffee and gave him a nod. "He told me what he said," she whispered. "I'm sorry. Jamie's got a big heart and too many worries." Colt looked at her. "He's got guts." She sighed. "He's got loneliness too." Colt stayed in Maple Creek longer than expected. He told himself he was waiting for the truck parts, but in truth, every morning brought a new reason not to leave. He started helping at the auto shop. Then someone asked if he'd help mend a fence. Then came the sick calf on old Mr. Wyatt's farm. He noticed how Lila always smiled at everyone but hardly ever talked about herself. He saw the way Jamie's bruises came from school bullies, not from falling. And how Lila fought with the school board to get Jamie a chance, only to be ignored. He noticed how she helped others quietly, bought bread for the widow down the road, and still came home with aching feet and no one to rub them. Every time Colt tried to leave, something in Jamie's words rang louder in his mind. "She's got no ring and no husband. But she's got me. And I reckon that oughta be enough." It was on a rainy Thursday night that everything changed. Jamie hadn't come home from school. Lila was beside herself, walking the streets with a flashlight, calling his name, heart pounding so loud she could barely hear the wind. Colt found her near the railroad tracks, soaked, eyes red. "I'll help," he said. And he did. They searched every alley, every barn, every mile. Finally, just before midnight, they found him curled up behind the old church, clutching his knees, shivering. "Why'd you run off?" Colt asked gently as Lila hugged him close. Jamie mumbled, "Because I thought maybe if I disappeared, Mama wouldn't have to worry about me anymore." Lila broke into tears. "Don't you ever say that again, Jamie. Don't you ever." That night, Colt sat by the fire at their small house. Lila made tea with shaking hands. "I'm sorry he asked you what he did," she whispered again. He asked because he loves you, Colt replied. And now I understand why. She looked up at him, eyes glistening, walls cracking. You deserve someone who stays, he said. Both of you. 3 months later, Colt wasn't just the man who stayed. He was the man who fixed the school's broken playground, taught Jamie how to rope, and brought Lila wildflowers from the field near the ridge. One spring afternoon, Jamie stood in front of the church in a buttoned shirt and suspenders, grinning wide. He held the ring in his tiny hand and whispered to Colt, "Told you she's worth it." Colt knelt, smiled back, and said, "You were right."